Hello, hello, hello. Ron and I are back to preview this Friday's game versus the Houston Dynamo at home at Camping World Stadium. Tonight, Kyle from Keeper Notes is joined us to bring us all the Houston-related news. I would let you guys say hello to Kyle, but he's just going to be a black screen, so you'll hear his voice. Unfortunately, you won't get to see his good looks.
They're
But
not that
Ron,
good looking.
but Ron, you can say hello.
Hello, everybody. It's a strange night.
Yep. So you're probably watching this whenever, but it's going to be after Coach Heath was fired because he just got fired. So I don't know. I'm going to reserve my opinion about it. I don't want to go on a rant. That's not really what this video is about. Ron, you have any thoughts about Coach Heath being fired?
Um, I'm not going to say it was a complete shock to me. I mean, I thought in my heart that he'd stay till the end of the season, but I kind of mentioned on City Soccer Talk podcast and that I thought if for somehow they lost to Houston this week that there was a decent chance he could be fired. So I'm not completely shocked. If you read Paul Tenorio's tweets, he's kind of giving you guys a little background on the power struggle and the disconnect in the front office and the coaching staff. So unfortunately, Orlando City is just going through some serious turmoil right now, and like Phil's statement said, it got to a tipping point, and I don't think Phil got to make this decision. I think he fought for Adrian as long as he could, and eventually he ran out of say. That's probably what happened.
All right, and Kyle, from an outside perspective, do you have any thoughts about Adrian Heath being fired?
I am surprised from a team who had just let go of their coach about a month ago. I'm kind of surprised that anyone else in the league would follow suit so soon outside of Seattle. I figured if anyone was going to fire a coach, it'd be the Sounders with the way they're massively underperforming, considering that Orlando's not that bad. I mean, more mediocre than anything, and it seems from an outside perspective more the fans and ownership was expecting more, but y'all aren't a dumpster fire like, say, we in Seattle are, or Chicago for that matter.
Yeah. All right, I mean, we're under the line right now, but only on goal differential. We have the same amount of points as the sixth team, and um, I mean, I got nothing, so I'm kind of upset, to be honest with you. But we'll move on. So you just mentioned that Houston is really bad. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, we're okay. To be fair to us, we are bad because of what happened in the first few months of the season under Owen Coyle. He was never able to get the kind of mentality you need as a head coach. He comes from England, and he mostly dealt with teams that were borderline Premiership clubs, a lot of up and down teams. So he had that mentality of playing a particular way. But in MLS, you don't need that mentality. You need we're going to go out and win every game, not we're just going to survive the year and not be relegated, which amongst the fans we always described as a big success for us because he never got us relegated. The biggest problem was our midfield. What he was trying to do, we had a lot of turnovers, and since our defense isn't the fleetest of foot outside of DeMarcus Beasley, that led to a lot of very bad counterattacking goals. But now Wade Barrett is the coach. He's been the coach for about a month now. Former player and team captain for the Dynamo. He uses a 4-1-4-1, and so far we're much more sound in midfield. We don't give up as many silly balls. We're giving up fewer shots, but we're also probably the most boring team to watch in the entire league and probably all of the Americas.
All right. And do you wanna tell us about the players that are in your 4-1-4-1?
I mean, there's a lot of players. I'll give you like the key ones, obviously. Just go up the spine and goal. You have Tyler Derrick. He's a local kid here in Houston. He was officially part of the academy, but that's kind of a whole other story in and of itself. Joined the team 2007, and he's been a starter for the last year and change now. Definitely one of the better keepers in the league. Excellent shot stopper. Still has a little ways to go as far as grooming, but everyone loves him. And in front of him, you're going to have a rotating trio of center backs. You have two Spanish center backs in Agus and Raul Rodriguez, both from the Spanish second and third divisions where they applied their trade throughout their careers. Neither of them are exactly stellar, but they get the job done. The third one is David Horst, been in MLS his whole career, your prototypical MLS center back. Big, strong, built like a linebacker. The key player now in the 4-1-4-1 versus what we had is probably going to be that defensive midfielder, which is Colin Warner. And he's, again, another kind of journeyman. Excellent, really surprisingly excellent defensive midfielder. Does a really good job keeping the center of the field controlled. He's a good pivot player. His passes are generally short and to the point. He doesn't try anything crazy, so he doesn't turn over the ball much. As far as the rest of the midfielders, probably the most notable is Ricardo Clark, former U.S. international, more of a box-to-box guy now. Two-way player, infamous for kicking the crap out of Carlos Ruiz back in the day and getting then the league's longest suspension. Even though players secretly wanted to pay his fine for him from around the league, they were all like, "Can we chip in?" No, we can't. And then up front is the ever-controversial Will Bruin, and I could go on about Will Bruin for about an hour and how the fans both really hate him and everything he stands for and does, and how also fans really love all the hard work and timely goals he tends to kick in every now and then. That's kind of like the spine of the team.
All right, and would you say that Bruin is your biggest attacking threat?
No. Well, okay, just to give you a heads up for Will Bruin, for anyone who's not familiar with him, he just passed his 50th goal scored in league play, and out of all the active players right now that aren't up in like the 70-goal range, he's probably the one most likely to break the century mark in his career. He's steady. He gets like 10 goals a year. He's never injured, but he will score 2 or 3 goals with a span of like 2 or 3 games, do nothing for the next 3 months, and then go on another spree. That is Will Bruin. So no, he's not our best. Like talent-wise, our best is Eric Torres, Mexican youth international. He's currently trying to get on their Olympic team. Another one is Mauro Manotas. He's a Colombian international, or youth international at the U20 team. Those are our two most talented, but for varying reasons, neither one has gotten much playing time this year. So you'll see Will Bruin. You'll probably not find him very threatening, unfortunately. But again, that's a whole other podcast I could go on about.
All right, and I think if there's ever going to be a tough week to predict Orlando City, it's going to be this week. So, Ron, you want to take your best whack at it?
Yeah, I put together a lineup before we found out the news that Adrian Heath was fired. I haven't really been good at predicting lineups this year anyways under Adrian Heath, so I probably won't do any worse than I have been doing. But I think if you look at the back line, obviously Bendix in goal, it's probably our best player right now. The back line, if it was me, and probably what will happen is I think you'll see Shea, Redding, Hines, and Alston on the back line. I think David Mateos was so bad against FC Dallas that he gets hopefully punished and at least has to sit the bench. So I think you see Hines and Redding back there. I would personally move Shea back. I don't think Luke Bowden's up to MLS level anymore. I mean, I think he proved against Dallas that he doesn't have the athletic ability to keep up with some of the faster players in this league. I thought he looked disinterested. I thought he checked out. I thought he quit on the team big time on Monday night. So I would expect Shea to move back to left back. Higuita and Seren in the middle, I think is probably that. As long as Seren continues to be fit, I think he plays there. And then up top, we're going to have Larin, we're going to have Kaká, we're going to have Molino, and then it's the conundrum of left mid that Sam and I have been dealing with for a year and a half now.
Well, it's not winter anymore.
Well, I know it's not winter. Adrian Vinter, we lost 2 Adrians this week, but I mean, it's the perfect. I mean, if Carlos Rivas isn't going to get minutes now when Adrian Vinter is gone and the opening is there for him to get minutes, then maybe he's on the verge of being traded. And unfortunately, if Rivas doesn't get in the game, who does that leave us with, Sam? I think it leaves us with Antonio Nocerino. So I would not be surprised to see Nocerino on Friday. If it's not Nocerino, then it should and hopefully will be Carlos Rivas.
And this might be a far reach just because I was there, but I thought Tony Rocha played really good in the Open Cup game. I thought he was like the best player other than Molino before his Molino made a goal out of really just beat a man and made a goal for himself. But other than that, like a lot of our shots in Open Cup were created by Tony Rocha. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to become like a fringe first team player on the left, especially with Winter going in. Only God knows who we're going to bring in. On in the transfer window. I think this is going to be a crazy window for us. I'm just still a little thrown back. But so Kyle, how do you guys typically fare against teams that play the 4-2-3-1?
Hard to say since we haven't had a whole lot of experience under Wade Barrett. I would say the best thing to think about when it comes to how we fare is not so much how we fare against other teams as far as lineups go. It's whether we're able to execute the defensive mindset that Barrett's instilled. The biggest thing when you ask the players versus Owen Coyle and under Wade Barrett is they have a better sense of what they need to do defensively, how they need to shut players down. For example, when I look at y'all's team and I try and look at it from your point of view and be like, okay, if I was Orlando, how would I attack the Dynamo? Where do I think they're vulnerable? I look at Breck Shea. And I've watched Breck Shea ever since he was a young whippersnapper who was yelling at everyone. Not that much changed. His hairstyle's improved, so I give him credit for that. But I look at him because he's extremely frustrating. He'll have those nights where he can score really great goals. He will dribble through people like it's no one's business. You're like, why isn't this guy in a better league? And then there are nights like the other night. But he still has the abilities. And right back has been a kind of a weird position for us. That's where I think when I look at Orlando, I'm like, okay, we need to attack the Dynamo at right back. And I think that's where they're the most vulnerable, and that's where I do think we're the most vulnerable. But other than that, what needs to happen for you guys is to really high press. Usually works really well because we're more of a counterattacking team. We'll flood the midfield, we'll intercept the ball from you guys, and we'll make it almost impossible for you to find any of your strikers. And then we'll hit you on the counter really fast, and we try to create a lot of shots and hope that Will Bruin or whoever else can actually put one in because we haven't exactly been scoring a lot of goals as of late. So that's kind of how I view things from that kind of tactical setup.
All right, and we've talked about it time and time again, Ron, how teams that force us, into possession, even though we're a possession-based team, it seems like we always have a bogey with the counter team. Fort Lauderdale beat us on the counter. Chicago always gave us trouble last year on the counter. We haven't seen them yet, but I'm sure it'll happen again. Just what are your general thoughts?
I don't think this team defends well whether they're on the counter, whether they're in possession. I think you can score on us a myriad of different ways. Kyle was talking about if you high press Houston, that could give Houston some trouble. Orlando City doesn't high press at all. Maybe that changes under a new coach. I doubt it changes in the first game. They'll probably continue Adrian Heath's system for at least a little while until the coach can maybe somehow tactically have this team make some adjustments. But Orlando City is probably going to win most of the possession battle of this game. I'd assume they'll. A lot of times after a coach gets fired in soccer, you get a big effort. You see it in the EPL a lot, especially with teams struggling with relegation. Sometimes you get a big effort. That way, players playing for their jobs or they want to make a good first impression on the new coach. So maybe that's what we'll see from Orlando City this week. I think they're a better team than Houston. I think Houston is actually better than people give them credit for. They only have a -2 goal differential. They're really bad on the road, but I think they've been steadier under the new coach. And I do think they will give us trouble. Orlando City is not a team that's going to demolish you very many weeks, but thankfully we are a lot better at home, and they are a lot worse on the road. So I was saying it was a must-win game for Adrian Heath. I don't know if it's a must-win anymore because whoever's the coach now probably won't last, after the season's over. So I don't know. This one's a tough one to predict, Sam.
All right, and Kyle, do you have any questions for us or any closing sentiments before we do score predictions?
As far as sentiments, all I can say, since y'all have just got rid of your first coach, he's now gone, is this could be a game that it's going to go one of two ways. Either, people are going to rebound, the players are going to be like, okay, we need to come together and do really well, but we've also seen in MLS where sometimes the coach gets fired midway through the season and it just in the tank right after that. So this is an extremely important game because it's all going to be about mentality. Even if you guys lose, if you can come out or you get a draw and you play really good and it's organized, but just something happens, referee decision or just unlucky break, like what happened with Philly. They played us and lost in the 95th minute off a free kick, But they still played decent. I think y'all be okay. As far as questions, how do you think you're going to be able to get the service to the forwards? Because that's the big thing, is our central midfield is so flooded. There's so many players in there, and we have pretty good center backs. I'm just curious how y'all envision getting that ball forward and getting service to your strikers.
Well, I think it starts with Kaká and ends at Kevin Molino, and if one of those two players isn't providing service, then there is not going to be any service. If Kaká is fit, he came out with a little hamstring something or flare up in the last game. If he's fit and he's asserting himself into the game, I think he can get the ball to Larin, and they've had some nice chemistry in the past. On the right wing, Molino has proven that he is athletic enough to beat a defender one-on-one and to get a cross in. I know in Heath's system we like to try to cross in to the box from our wing backs. Alston, on the right, I don't think that really should cause anybody trouble going forward. He's not the most attacking prowess right back. And on the left is Breck-Shea, so maybe he can get across in, maybe he can't. Maybe he's lost in between somewhere. I can't really figure out what he's doing at left back. So if there's anything else, Ron, you want to tie up my loose ends?
Well, you're right. I mean, if Kaká or Kevin Molino don't get the ball to Larin, he's probably not going to receive a lot of service. But in order for Kaká and Kyle and Kevin Molino to get the ball to Larin, Christian Higuita and Darwin Seren have to play better. They're the motor that runs this team. They had their poorest showing as a pairing against FC Dallas, which is part of the reason we were so bad and part of the reason the defense was under assault all night. So they have to get it together, those two, because if they're not controlling the middle of the field, if they can't control the middle of the field against Houston at home, then we have much bigger problems going forward. You're right about the wingbacks needing or the wingers needing to cross the ball. Larin really thrives off of crosses, which is why I've always liked Carlos Rivas in there, because Carlos Rivas will cross the ball 100 times a game, and if you do that enough, Kyle Larin, his movement in the box is so good. He's so much bigger and faster than most players that he's going to score a goal. But if we just try to go up the middle and Breck-Shea pinches in, because if Breck-Shea gets moved up to the wing, he pinches in a lot. Molino constantly pinches in. Then we just drive everything through the middle, which when you turn the ball over, it makes you susceptible on the counterattack. And it's one of the reasons that Kyle Larin wasn't getting the ball ever. So I think the width will be important this game. If Shea does play left mid, I need to see him be wider, get deeper, cross the ball more. If we do that, those things, I think we'll handle Houston.
All right, Kyle, did that answer your question?
Yeah, just one more quick question. I saw this on Twitter. Dunga, you think he might come over to Orlando since y'all got the big Brazilian ownership?
I don't know. I don't usually waste my time talking about who could or couldn't be here. There's other people to do that. So I don't know if you want to talk about it, Ron. You can, but I'm just gonna pass.
I'm not going to talk about it much. I hope not. I mean, this team needs a coach that knows how to coach in MLS. Dunga was pretty pathetic for Brazil and Copa America. I mean, obviously there's a Brazil connection there. I think it's too easy to connect those dots, though. Come on, it's not going to be that.
All right.
Okay.
Well, there we go. And let's go to score predictions. I never go first, so I'm actually going to go first tonight. I think that after today's firing of Coach Heath, that this game is going to be a total shit show for Orlando. I think he was the program, as good or as bad as you think he was. I think we were playing his system. OCB plays his system. The youth academies try to teach his system. And if you remove the program, I don't think the first game's going well. So, and after Dallas, my confidence is low. So I'm just going to predict a loss. I don't know how bad it's going to be, but it's going to be bad. Kyle, you can go second.
I agree that confidence is going to be extremely low. I mean, when Dallas dismantles you, and I know this because I've seen them dismantle the Dynamo for years now, it can be really disheartening because they're definitely one of those teams that they don't care what the score is. They want more goals. They're never satisfied with however many they have. Firing the coach isn't going to make things easier. The Dynamo have been picking up a little bit of steam. I mean, they haven't been terrible on the road under Wade Barrett. Even the loss in Portland was really good. But I just can't get past the fact that neither the Dynamo nor the Dash have been successful against Orlando. I don't think that's going to change, but I think we can get a draw. I'll go 1-1.
All right. Ron?
Well, first of all, I want to say that my farewells to Adrian Heath. I got to talk to him a lot last year, asking questions and stuff, and he was always candid and honest with the media. He did a lot for Orlando City, so it's a very sad day for Orlando City. That being said, onto my score prediction, I think it's going to be I think this game could be similar to the game kind of after the Pride massacre. I think you're going to have the players and the fans. There's going to be two sets of emotions. It's going to be sad, but it's going to be like kind of a new beginning type thing or a moving on type thing. I think it could be a real weird situation for the players. I'm not comparing Adrian Heath's firing to the massacre, but I'm just saying that kind of emotional swings that you could have in the game. So I see it being a draw. I like that 1-1 scoreline. I think Orlando City does enough to get a draw. I don't think that makes any of us happy in the end. But I think they're in a vulnerable state right now. It's hard to predict them to win.
All right. Well, I am Sam, and I'm OC Lions Fan TV, MLS's only fan TV. Ron is finally back live on his podcast this week at City Soccer Talk, as usual. Kyle, the faceless man, so to speak, why don't you tell us where your information can be found for all things Houston?
I write for Keeper Notes, and we can be found at keepernotes.com. We cover the Dynamo, we cover women's soccer, MLS in general, the international game, all sorts of soccer. You can find me on Twitter at elnaranja22, and you can find me on Facebook, just Kyle Nwatney.
All right. Well, there you guys have it, and we always appreciate your time, so thank you very much. Peace out.